Be sure to follow us on TikTok at MysticSage1 for daily anime content. Tanjiro Kamado is a fantastic protagonist, but that's not what this video is about. Instead, I want to pose a question. What if Nezuko was the main character of Demon Slayer? In this story, as it is, Nezuko is a secondary character. As the sister of Tanjiro, we see her pretty much entirely from his perspective, so we don't get much detail about how she copes with all the events of the story. So without further ado, today we're going to speculate about how different Demon Slayer would be with this beloved character as the protagonist. Be warned that there will be spoilers for both the anime and manga in this video. Let's get started. The biggest change would of course be the difference in perspective. Originally we see Tanjiro find his family after the demon attack, who has been transformed. After entering Gyo Tomioka, Tanjiro then trains to join the Demon Slayer Corps, and we follow his adventures in this company as he fights to take down Muzan Kibutsuji. From Nezuko's perspective, the story would instead be her getting turned into a demon, her brother finding her, and her struggle back towards her humanity following her transformation. All while watching Tanjiro put himself in danger to fight demons, and figuring out how she can help him as the other humans treat her with suspicion and fear. Inside Nezuko's mind is somewhat of a mystery, just because she doesn't speak much at all throughout the story. So it would be a good opportunity to find out how she reacts to being changed into a demon right at the start. Is she aware of what's happening to her? Can she understand what Tanjiro says to her? In the actual story, she seems to be driven more by instinct, especially at the beginning as she goes to attack her brother. So I think the narrative would be much more simplistic, maybe based more on environmental sounds and images to convey how she's feeling. Maybe we hear her heartbeat increasing and a growl building in her throat as Tanjiro approaches, signifying her desire to attack him. And a shift in music, and a close-up of her eyes to show the changes as she goes to defend him from Gyu. Again, using music and facial expressions, we could see the realization as she takes in the conversation between Tanjiro and Gyu, when she finally understands what has happened to her. Something else that would need to be portrayed in this kind of method would be her loss of memory. We don't really get to fully understand to what extent she can remember her former life as a human. So following her more closely as the protagonist would give a clearer image of what state her memory is in. For example, we could see through her dreams how she's feeling and what she remembers. She was asleep for 2 whole years at Urokodaki's house. During the Mugen Train arc, we get to see certain characters' dreams and their innermost self. I think it would be really cool to have the same mechanic to show Nezuko's inner narrative while she's having that long sleep. In her dreams, the faces of her family members are fuzzy and we can't make them out fully, but we do see the warmth that she feels towards them, and that she feels connected to them. She has a similar memory of the sun-breathing style as Tanjiro has, but she doesn't understand the significance of it at this point. So it's a great opportunity to foreshadow, and then later in the story, she has much more of a hand in helping Tanjiro reach his full potential with that breathing style. It's probably a more complicated way of telling the story that might involve more thought and concentration from the audience, but it could give much more depth to Nezuko and the relationship she has to her family, especially Tanjiro and their ancestors. We also know that she doesn't remember Muzan Kibutsuji slaughtering her family until much later in the story, so through her dreams, we could see how she has internalized that event. Not only is her family away, but she feels lost and angry knowing that she can't see them anymore, not fully understanding why. For an already very emotional story, this would ramp up the heartbreak another notch. Other things that would be awesome to see more of from Nezuko would be her strong willpower. She knows not to attack humans, and as she becomes stronger, she gets incredibly protective of them, and even loving, which is not something we see from other demons. The exception being Tamayo and Yushido, who Nezuko shows some affection towards. From Nezuko's perspective, we get more indication of her feelings towards them and how their relationship grows to the point she wants to hug Tamayo. Next, her knowing how to fight. There's nothing to suggest she's a fighter when she's a human, but as a demon, it comes naturally to her. If we can see her thought processes, we can see if she, and by extension, demonkind in general, has some natural knowledge of combat. Or if she's only acting in instinct, does she surprise herself with what she can do? We could also see how she progresses and gains more control over herself as her transformation continues, up to the point that she becomes immune to sunlight. The storytelling would change as she grows, becoming clearer and more coherent, easier to follow the stronger Nezuko becomes. This reflects her thoughts themselves becoming clearer as she goes from an instinct-driven animalistic demon to something closer to human in the way she thinks, along with regaining her speech. It could be a really fun and dynamic way to put across the same story, and for an already outstanding anime could make it even more unique. The overall themes also change in this scenario. From Tanjiro's perspective, we're focused on his own struggles as a human facing deadly demons. He finds the humanity in his enemy and shows an overwhelming kindness. And he makes tons of friends, showing us they support and strengthen each other. So it's about his connection to humanity, his fighting strength, and his love for other humans. From Nezuko's perspective, the story is more greatly focused on her struggle between her demon form and her lingering humanity. While this is also a theme of what makes someone human, being from the other side of the fence would shift the narrative more towards that internal battle within the demons themselves. What makes a demon evil, and what kind of connection to humanity is required to overcome that? She's fighting to regain her memories and understand her place in the world, while protecting the humans around her. She supports Tanjiro in his battles, but has her own story and her own connections with others. We see how she feels about Urokodaki, Tamayo, the Demon Slayers, and Muzan Kibutsuji, because her relationships are naturally different from those we see with Tanjiro. Since she doesn't always go with the Demon Slayer Corps to their missions, the story is less action-packed and more introspective, more focused on the internal world of Nezuko, and the big questions her transformation creates. It's darker, slower, and more philosophical than it already was, with even more depth given to those characters Nezuko spends the most time with. As I said before, I don't think it would be as easy to watch, but the emotional rewards for the audience would be even greater. The final point that would change in my opinion would be how the demon transformation happens in general. By this, I mean that the transformation itself would progress faster, and the characteristics would change somewhat to make it easier to tell the story. Nezuko grows faster out of her instinctive state, towards a more human-like form similar to the 12 Kizuki. I think this would make the story go a little faster, so it would be a shorter series. But with how intense it would be to get inside Nezuko's head, this would work in the story's favor. And while I don't think it's particularly necessary for her to regain her verbal speech for the story to be told, I do think being told from her perspective would speed up that part of her development, partially for convenience, but also because we as an audience would understand much better how she communicates and understands others. So it's not as important for her to have no voice, because that information is already put across to us and serves its purpose early on, as a way of balancing her power and also showing what demon transformation is like in its early days. So that's what I think Demon Slayer would be like if Nezuko was the protagonist. It's a bit different from the type of video I usually make, but it's so much fun to think about how the protagonist affects how the story is told. What do you think though? Let me know in the comments whether you would enjoy Demon Slayer told in this way, or whose perspective you would want to see. Thanks for watching, and see you again soon for more anime content. Hey guys, before the video closes out, I just want to thank you so much for bringing your support over here on Mystic Sage. I upload every Saturday and Sunday and strive to bring you guys a review and some fun discussion content, so your viewership means the world. Also, if you want a little more from Mystic Sage, head on over to TikTok and check us out over there for more fun, bite-sized anime videos. I've also got an Amazon store where I sell tons of cool anime merch, so check it out. For real this time though, thanks again for watching. I'm Mystic Sage, and I'll see you next time with some more great anime content.